Hello and welcome back to another Monster Monday, a series where I draw a creature from D&D based on one of your suggestions, and I talk about its lore and its history and what it's like to fight as well. Today's suggestion comes in from The Sage here in the YouTube comments, and they've requested Bullywugs, as well as having an absolutely fantastic name. Bullywugs are wonderful monsters to me, not because of their nature, they're evil through and through, but I love them because they're a permanent testament or memorial to the intention of the design of Dungeons & Dragons. They were created in 1981 as part of a book called The Fiend Folio, and they really captured players' imaginations as one of the opposing factions in the iconic Dwellers of the Forbidden City adventure released in that same year. But they were created not only by Gary Gygax, but by one of his sons, Luke. Luke is the one who founded and manages GaryCon, convention in memorial of Gary Gygax. And Luke had a massive impact on the creation of D&D as well. He played the character Melf on adventures with his family, as in Melf's Minute Meteors or Melf's Acid Arrow, some of the spells that I'm sure we're undoubtedly all familiar with. But I love Bullywugs because it always conjure an image of a father-son bonding experience, and this idea of a creative family passionate about storytelling and gaming, and the fact that a family's adventure and creations like this have forged stories for others to enjoy all these years later. It inspires me. It's one of my dearest hopes for the future to get a chance to play with a family I will one day build, just as Gary, Luke, and the other Gygaxes did when they created creatures like the Bullywug. I get a little emotional thinking about it, actually. The name Bullywug, as a side effect of being a sort of family in-joke, is essentially gibberish, unfortunately. I can't tell you the origins of it, or if it has any greater meaning or significance aside from sounding pretty funny, but there are two things that speak to me to the nature of the inspiration of Bullywugs in their moniker. Firstly, Bullywugs are amphibious, frog or toad-like humanoids that dwell in swamps and damp forests. They're usually said to have skin of a gradient of yellows, browns and muddy greens, and that tells me that they were likely inspired by the American bullfrog, so bully, bullfrog. But their name may have also been drawn from the term bully as in bullying. Bullywugs are horrible and aggressive creatures. They're neutral evil, although when they were first created they were chaotic evil alignment. Bullywugs and bullfrogs are focused on social dominance. Male bullfrogs will often gather in large congregations called choruses and roar constantly, stopping occasionally to threaten each other with usually hollow displays of aggression, puffing their chests up, tilting their heads back and elevating their throats, which usually have a yellow colour to them. And this throat section that they puff up is called a gular sac or a gular pouch, and is that yellow crest that inflates to simulate an increased size and ferocity in bullfrogs. Essentially, the more yellow-bellied you are as a bullfrog, the better. Bullywugs embark on similar levels of cringeworthy boastfulness, live in a hideous greed and posturing-based aristocracy, at the head of which usually sits a self-styled king or queen of the swamp. Bullywugs are a species obsessed with pseudo-nobility, despite being quite savage, slimy, and in constant need of hydration, lest their amphibious skin dry out. They fashion elaborate but shabby clothing and jewellery salvaged from swamped refuse or the remains of travellers. They behave in a state of near-constant vulgarity, but will always put on airs of superiority and grace. If you were to picture a species of Jabba the Hutt-style monsters hopping around in a swamp, you'd be on the right track with these creatures. They're obsessed with grand titles and being treated like royalty. They are always lower on the pecking order than their king or queen. Bullywugs can only increase their respect and their standing within their mud-encrusted society in two ways. One is by killing their rivals, any of those who speak out against them, and their opinions are the loudest, no longer challenged. They have no opposing voices of dissent to their rise. But even though evil, murder is still strictly forbidden amongst Bullywugs. Those that can't keep their criminal behaviour quiet are usually put to death, and traditionally this is under the guise of outrage on the part of their slimy monarch, but in reality this is probably just for the ruler to flex their power muscle. The other option is to present gifts of impressive magic items to their king or queen, who will have no qualms with executing or demoting their previous favourites once distracted by their shiny new bauble, to then replace this gift giver with a new role and new authority over their brethren. As a result, most people encounter bands of bullywugs as they hijack caravans and harass travellers, aiming to steal valuables from them to earn favour from their ruler. If ever captured or attacked by Bullywugs, it's always a good idea to offer them material goods, to inflate their egos, or to grovel before them. They have desperate inferiority complexes and can easily have their intentions swayed one way or another depending on who is buttering them up. That said, they do only traditionally speak their own language, called Bullywug, so it may be quite hard to praise them in any way that they'll understand without physically putting gold in their pockets or over-dramatically bowing, for example. The language Bullywug is actually really interesting. It consists of chirps, ribbits, and deep ringing roars, but it's such a primal tongue that it can still be understood, or at least a little bit, by the non-humanoid amphibious creatures of the swamps that the Bullywugs inhabit for miles and miles around their call. This allows Bullywugs to set up a vast spy network of frogs and toad messengers warning of outsiders entering their marshy kingdoms, but it also allows them to befriend and often ride or tame the fierce giant frogs of the ancient places of the world. If you can't manage to barter your way out of trouble when attacked by Bullywugs, however, this is probably what you should expect from combat. They're a challenge rating 1/4 creature and like to attack in groups. They don't like a challenge, so they'll usually gang up on one person at a time. They have extremely low stats, boasting only an average of 11 HP, 12 strength and dexterity, 13 constitution, 10 wisdom, and their intelligence and charisma are both at 7, so they won't deal very well with mind games or spellcasters. They're very likely to attack the weakest in the group first, and they aren't above fleeing combat if they're struggling. They may even abandon a fight to engage a weaker opponent nearby so that they can exaggerate the tales of their triumph later on when they return home. They have advantage on stealth checks in swamps, so they'll often surprise attack you to catch your party off guard. They have a pretty great jump, so they'll probably be hiding in trees and inaccessible places to you. They can make 2 attacks per turn, or make use of a spear to keep themselves at range for fear of being struck by opportunity attacks when they need to flee combat, or will resort to a bite attack if their spears are having very little effect. Now, the idea of a frog biting someone seemed a little bit weird to me. I'd assumed that frogs weren't great biters, but the African bullfrog has an enormous set of fangs on its bottom jaw that help them cut through snakes, which is their natural prey. But the only thing missing for me with Bullywugs seems to be their sensitivity to dehydration. We hear a lot about it in the lore. We know that they die if they dry out. Frogs do the same. They have lungs, but they get most of their oxygen through osmosis, transferring it through their semi-permeable skin into their organs. This is why it's never kind to pick up a frog, because they quickly absorb anything toxic to them through their skin too, and humans carry a lot of bacteria and chemicals on their skin that can be harmful to frogs. This oxygen absorption only works for frogs if they're moist and hydrated, so if they ever start to dry, they won't be able to breathe, and as well as not being able to put enough oxygen into their bodies, they won't be able to exhale any carbon dioxide, and that'll build up in their bodies, heating them up further and making the condition worse. As a DM, I'd personally give Bullywugs some kind of fire vulnerability as a result of this, or give them some kind of levels of exhaustion if they are exposed to heat with no available water source nearby. But then they are very weak creatures already, so adding this vulnerability to them might reduce their challenge rating below a level where you'd frequently use them, really. So who knows? How do you handle Bullywugs in your games? Make sure to let me know down in the comments below. But this has been Bullywugs, guys, so thank you very much for joining me on this drawing, and thank you, The Sage, for suggesting it. If you have any creatures that you'd like to see me draw, please make sure to leave them down in the comment section below. Keep a note of all of your suggestions and I'll get through them all eventually. But I'm trying to draw them in the order that I've received them, so we've got a while to get through. Either way, there's infinite monsters and lots of ideas, so please make sure to add to the list. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a little thumbs up, a little like down below. Maybe favourite this video and share it with your party, just in case you come up against a band of Bullywugs and you need to find out how to massage their egos. If you really love this video and you'd like to see more from me, I make 2 videos a week right now, so make sure to subscribe and click the little bell icon for updates whenever I make videos. We're still a new channel, so everything that you can do like that massively helps us to grow. So thank you very much for your support. If you really love this drawing in particular and you'd like a copy for yourself, over on my Patreon page, supporters at certain levels get rewards of every Monster Monday that I draw each month, either as a digital print or as a physical copy that I'll post to you. And there are some other rewards as well. So if you'd like to help me improve the kind of videos that I can make by leaving a financial contribution, please make sure to head over to Patreon and take a look. Otherwise, guys, this has been absolutely lovely. I hope you found it useful. Until I see you next time, have a lovely day and happy monster hunting.